Yeah, I mean, that's controversial, right? That's because you could argue incremental gains, right? But how much, I guess what we're going to come back to is how much time and effort to get how much incremental gain. I mean, that's kind of the question here that we're going to keep coming back to.
Yeah, and this is the point, because the marginal gains, Team Sky, road cycling, everything was, will this increase or decrease performance to the point where they're taking mattresses to accommodation so people sleep better? I get that, because you're an engine on a bike. Now, the psychology of a downhill racer is different. It's better to go into a race feeling like they're completely physically prepared, and then it comes down to the psychology after that. So when we're talking about incremental gains, you can spin all plates together, but if you focus too hard on an area that ultimately doesn't get any return, say VO2 max, you get to a threshold where it takes a lot more effort to go up a little bit, diminishing returns on your effort.
I mean, that's such a
Yeah.
big statement on the VO2, right? What could you,
Yeah.
could you unpack that a little bit? Like how much time and effort it would take to move the needle there?
Yeah. So ultimately, the higher you go, the more time it takes to get any better. If you're starting on any kind of fitness journey, anything you do will help you. And your body, we call it a training age. So the longer you've been training, particularly with strength work, the harder it is then to get more strength. And this is where I got with CrossFit. I spent a good 3 or 4 months on a squat specific program to get stronger. And I put 5 kilos on my squat, and I was squatting 185 kilos, which isn't big in the CrossFit world. And at that point, I thought that was not worth it. All of the effort I put in, everything I did right, I got 5 fucking kilos. In that time, I could have been doing anything else and enjoying myself pain-free, because it was a painful process. So when we're looking at VO2 max, ultimately, if you're around 55 to 65 on your VO2 max, like you are in the bracket of elite athletes that are racing downhill. Anything above that, diminished returns. You're going to have to spend a lot more time on zone-specific training to increase it. And when we're talking about zone 2, it takes a long time. When we're talking about intervals, that's high fatigue. That energy and that time would be much better spent on the bike, practicing, enjoying your sport, even hanging out social rides. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, you are obviously a proponent of strength conditioning training. It's your business, it's your life. You've got these athletes, but you've come back to say like skill-based sport, and once you're at a certain level, let's not forget the bike time and all. And I think that's awesome, because I was hearing Tomac speak about it on in between races and how much bike time they actually need. Like if you've got practice and you've got qualifying and then a main, he's kind of alluding, he didn't want to say it, but he's kind of alluding to like, I think everyone's riding too much in the week. So his skill is already, like it's Eli Tomac, right? It's Loic Bruni. At a certain stage in the season, less bike time is okay as well. Then you maybe go back to the block of strength and conditioning, because that's lapsed a bit. And I think if we're all really better at not looking outside and really focusing, like you've said, what is your strength and conditioning deficiency? What's your VO2 max deficiency skill? And then if you get those all together, then we haven't even touched on the mental side, right? The psychology of the sport, which is, how long is a piece of string, to really quantify that. So it's interesting you say that. Yeah, no, I appreciate you bringing out that, because it is just, again, we'll say it a million times, skill-based, skills-based sport.
So many more downhill riders, enduro riders would benefit from a mental coach, a mental performance coach, to get them to frame everything well, so that then they're in a repeatable state of mind, which is a high performance zone state, let's say. Some people can't get that. So why would you not spend the time there? Versus, I mean, it's not even a lot of time. You meet with someone once a week, they give you strategies, and all it is thought. It doesn't take any physical energy. So why would you not do that? And this is a shame that I see people not not going down that path. And the people that I spoke to that have had a mental coach, not one of them said it wasn't worth it. I know Greg Minard said that it was suggested to him and he said no, but maybe he's one of those unique characters that he understands himself to the depths of his motivations and anxieties enough. But of course, because he's competed for so long, but even Michael Jordan, he had a mental coach that progressed him on. Why would you not, even at the top of your sport?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think Greg is an outlier in the fact that I don't know what the chemical names are and how it all works, and I'll butcher, but I think he needs high pressure to perform his best, and it's been proven time and time again. So for him, other athletes battle a little bit more under these bigger moments, bigger pressure, and that's where they need someone in their corner to just maybe help them with facts, help them with self-talk, whatever it may be. Loic's spoken about it. He does chat to someone. It's now become, I would guess, it becomes almost life coaching as well, right? They might, depends on the week what they speak about. There might be some external stuff away from the bike that they need to handle so that it's not weighing on them at a race. So
100%.
I'm a proponent of that. I definitely spoke to someone at the Sports Institute here, and it was very helpful. And I think training, depending on the athlete, that's why I outsourced my training. I didn't want to have any doubt. I've used a few trainers, Alan Milway being one of them, some local guys, Scott Sharples back in the day. Very thankful to everyone that was in my corner, because that's what it was. It was like, what's the program? I'll do it. And I'll just go to bed. I did my work. And I think that builds confidence as well. Like real strong, not deluded confidence. You get confidence from doing the work,
So me as a business person, this is why I outsourced the development of the app, because I wasn't about to learn how to develop an app. So I got enough information to trust the people to do it, to then give it to them. Same with training. And this is how I find myself with the handful of elite athletes that I train them out of choice. So ultimately, my income comes from the general population program that I put out, from the things that I learn from the elite athletes. But that means that I can choose now who I train, and the fulfillment that gives me is immense. So that's my enjoyment there. And building the relationships with those people. Some people just want to follow a program and be completely ignorant to the background of why they're doing it, because they just trust me, and then they're committed, and that's what they need on race day, to know that they've done everything prior, not question it. Other people need to understand more, and I find that balance in these relationships. At what level do I explain how we're doing things, what data we're collecting, and how that reflects on the training, ultimately for buy-in? Because when we're talking about things like VO2 max testing, is it necessary? No, because we've proven that it's not. But does it help some people
Jamie's
sometimes?
Not happy hearing that.
No, it's not.
and that's why it pushes us all to think outside the box, right?
Yeah, but here's the defining factor on my stance on that is, you can do the best testing and find out everything about yourself. That's on that day. It changes thereafter. So it's variable thereafter. Zone training, all the finite detail, fantastic. If everything else is nailed down, you have a psychologist, you have a nutritionist, you're sleeping 9 hours of quality sleep a night, you're doing all of your mobility, and everything else is nailed down. But ultimately, this is the key point. Even when the data comes in to suggest that this particular VO2 max is optimal, let's strive for it, this is the training to maximize your progression to it. Say you've got a month's worth of training and you've got 20 days of training. Who is going to do 20 days? The very elite athletes. So for everybody else, and even some people that are going to be winning World Cups, it's better for me to get the balance so that they get the buy-in and the frequency of training, regardless of how perfect it is or not. Because who's going to perform better? The person that trains 20 days a month, or the person that does 12 to 15 days of perfect training? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's like, If there's going to be data there in the future, yes, we have a perfect pathway. But we're talking about people. Nothing's ever perfect. Nothing's ever aligned for long enough to be on that perfect pathway. So how do we actually maximize the training frequency, the number of training days? And on those days, what do you do depending on how you feel and what you're physically and mentally capable of? And throwing in the other variable, how does that actually support your psychology around racing mountain bikes? Because when this becomes a job and your mountain bike passion diminishes, that's when we see performance go downhill massively. Because people get to an event and have committed so much to the training, they expect results, but their mind is different from when they started mountain biking. So their state of mind come race day is different, and it's unusual to them because they haven't been doing the social rides, the enjoyment, the 15 laps that Oshin does on a weekend that everyone's like, oh, it's too many, like him and Ronan together. They're lapping.
I had a few runs with Ronan out here, and I could generally see how much he loves riding his bike, and it's different to how other guys prepare, and that's great.
Yeah, and that's where we hear so much with the top level athletes. I have to enjoy it. So what part of riding your bike versus the balance of training and everything else allows you to enjoy it? Do you know what I mean? Like some things you're not going to enjoy, but
let's break that down a bit, because there's also the other school of thought, like if it's not fun, I can't perform, and people use that as a scapegoat.